The moment they return is a pivotal crossroads in your life. It is not merely a test of patience or restraint, but a sacred opportunity to reclaim your power and set the course for your future. You must see this moment through the lens of wisdom and divine purpose, not as a chance to fall back into old wounds, but as a call to rise above them. You have to remember this. Your worth is inherent, untouched by their absence or return. It is not measured by their presence or their approval. When they left, it was their choice, a reflection of their limitations, not your value. Your boundaries are the sacred walls that protect your heart, your peace, and your soul. To allow someone back into your life without respect for these boundaries is to invite chaos into a temple meant for peace. You are the guardian of your own sanctuary. Guard it well. The patterns of avoidance and pursuit are like quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. When they come back, it is often to test the familiar dance, hoping for the same predictable outcomes. But growth requires breaking these cycles. It demands the courage to say, no, this time I choose differently. This is not just about rejecting a person. It is about rejecting the old versions of yourself that accepted less than you deserve. It is a declaration that your journey forward is not tethered to someone who once chose distance over closeness. Rejecting them is not an act of cruelty or revenge. True strength is calm and deliberate, rooted in self-respect rather than bitterness. When you reject the avoidant, do so with grace. Hold your head high, speak your truth clearly, and walk away with dignity. This rejection is a mirror reflecting your power back to you, the power to choose peace over pain, freedom over fear, and love over desperation. You do not need to explain or justify. Your actions speak louder than words ever could. More than anything, focus on your healing and your growth. Your heart is not a battlefield, but a garden that needs nurturing, patience, and care. Invest in yourself, in your passions, your dreams, and your peace. The energy you once wasted on uncertainty is now your fuel for transformation. When you live fully, the past loses its grip, and the future opens wide with possibility. And here is the true divine principle. Those who once avoided you will come to regret losing you, not because you confronted them with anger or resentment, but because you embody a life that no longer needs them to feel complete. Your joy, your confidence, your radiant peace, these are the silent messengers of your triumph. Their regret is your victory. But it is a victory won by your transformation, not by their failure. So when that moment arrives, when they come back seeking what they once abandoned, reject them the right way. Do it with wisdom, with strength, and with a love for yourself so fierce it cannot be broken. In that rejection, you reclaim your story, you rewrite your future, and you step fully into the life you were always meant to live. Understanding and embracing your own worth is the cornerstone of emotional freedom, especially when dealing with someone who has been avoidant in your life. It is easy to fall into the trap of measuring your value by their actions, by the times they showed up or disappeared, by their distance or silence. But the truth that must resonate within you is this: your worth is not conditional. It is not something that fluctuates based on another person's ability or willingness to be present. It is innate, unwavering, and sacred. When an avoidant person returns after a period of absence or emotional unavailability, it can stir a confusing mix of emotions: hope, doubt, fear, and longing. You may find yourself questioning if you did something wrong, or if you weren't enough to keep them close. This is the moment when your understanding of your worth must act like a lighthouse, guiding you through the stormy seas of uncertainty. You must remember that their avoidance is a reflection of their own struggles and limitations, not a verdict on who you are. Your boundaries are the expression of this self-worth. They are not walls built out of anger or bitterness, but the necessary protection that preserves your inner peace and dignity. To know your worth is to know what you will and will not accept in your relationships. It means recognizing that emotional availability, respect, and honesty are not privileges to be begged for, but rights to be expected. When you clearly define and uphold your boundaries, you are sending a powerful message, not just to others but to yourself, that you honor your own soul and will not allow it to be treated as less than it deserves. It is also important to recognize that setting boundaries is an act of love, not punishment. It is not about shutting people out arbitrarily, but about creating a safe space where your heart can flourish. This sacred space must be fiercely protected from those who would disrupt your peace, even if their return momentarily tempts you to lower your guard. When you honor your boundaries, you give yourself permission to heal and grow, rather than remaining stuck in cycles of pain and confusion. The process of reclaiming your worth is deeply transformative. It involves changing the internal narrative that might have whispered lies like "I am not enough" or "I need them to be whole." Instead, you rewrite this story with truths that affirm your completeness and resilience. You begin to see yourself as whole and radiant, not because someone else chose to stay or return, but because you embody a fullness that no absence can diminish. This inner strength becomes your foundation, making you impervious to the fear of rejection or abandonment. There is a divine wisdom in this self-recognition. It teaches you that your soul is not dependent on the approval or presence of another, but on your own alignment with your values and your truth. It is a sacred awakening to the fact that you are deserving of love, not because you have to prove it, but because you simply are. This realization nurtures a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that quietly but powerfully asserts, "I am enough, I am worthy, I am whole." This truth becomes especially vital when the avoidant returns seeking to re-enter your life. Their return may tempt you to lower your boundaries, to question your self-worth, and to reopen doors that you had wisely closed. But if you hold firmly to your recognition of your worth, you see the situation with clarity and calm. You do not need to chase after someone who once walked away, nor do you need to sacrifice your peace for the possibility of their presence. Instead, you stand tall, rooted in the knowledge that your value is not subject to their indecision or absence. When you live from this place of self-worth and honor your boundaries, you transform the dynamic entirely. You shift from being someone who waits in uncertainty to someone who commands respect through their unwavering self-respect. This shift is magnetic. It changes how others see you, how they treat you, and most importantly, how you treat yourself. Your worth becomes a light that no avoidant behavior can dim, a beacon that calls in relationships based on mutual respect and genuine connection. In this sacred journey, the moment of their return no longer feels like a crisis or a trap, but an invitation to embody your power fully, to choose peace over pain, and to walk forward with the quiet confidence of one who knows their own value and will never settle for less again. Breaking free from old patterns, especially when dealing with someone who exhibits avoidant behavior, is one of the most challenging yet transformative steps on your journey toward emotional liberation. These patterns often feel like invisible chains, cycles of hoping, chasing, withdrawing, and waiting that repeat themselves until you consciously decide to step out of them. Recognizing and resisting the pull of these familiar rhythms is essential for your growth and your freedom. When an avoidant person returns, it can trigger the same emotional responses that have kept you tied to the cycle in the past. You might feel the surge of hope that things will be different this time, the temptation to forgive quickly, or the urge to explain and justify their absence. These responses are natural, but they often lead to falling back into the same patterns that caused pain before. It's as if your heart is programmed to repeat what it knows, even if that repetition causes suffering. Understanding this dynamic is crucial, knowing that you are not weak or flawed for feeling this way, but that these emotional patterns have been deeply ingrained through experience. The real power lies in choosing to break the cycle. This means consciously deciding not to engage in old behaviors, no matter how familiar or comforting they may seem. It requires mindfulness and courage to notice when you are slipping into the pattern of making excuses for their avoidance, lowering your standards to keep the connection, or waiting anxiously for their attention. These habits, while they may feel like attempts to protect the relationship, often sabotage your own well-being and growth. Breaking free from old patterns also means examining the root causes of why you became entangled in these cycles in the first place. Often, it stems from a deep human need for connection and belonging. It is important to acknowledge this need without shame or judgment. However, it is equally important to understand that fulfilling this need cannot come at the cost of your emotional health or self-respect. When you recognize that clinging to someone who avoids emotional intimacy is more about filling a void within yourself than about a healthy partnership, you open the door to healing and transformation. This process is not about denying your feelings or pretending that pain doesn't exist. On the contrary, it involves facing your emotions honestly and with compassion. You allow yourself to feel the disappointment, the longing, and even the anger, but you refuse to let those feelings drive you back into the same destructive loops. Instead, you channel your energy into growth, learning more about yourself, developing new emotional tools, and fostering relationships that reflect mutual respect and genuine connection. One of the most liberating aspects of breaking free from these patterns is reclaiming your agency. It's the realization that you have the power to choose your responses and to set new standards for how you want to be treated. You are no longer a passive participant waiting for someone else's actions to determine your worth or your happiness. Instead, you become an active creator of your own life, making choices that align with your highest good. The courage to break old cycles also sends a profound message to yourself and to others. It tells you that you are worthy of consistent love and respect, and it signals to avoidant individuals that you will no longer tolerate behavior that undermines your well-being. This shift in energy is transformative. It changes the way you show up in relationships and alters the dynamics of connection, encouraging healthier interactions based on clarity and honesty. It is important to remember that breaking free is a process, not a single event. It requires patience, self-forgiveness, and sometimes professional support. There will be moments of temptation to return to old ways, moments when vulnerability feels overwhelming, and moments when the familiar pain beckons as if it were comfort. But each time you resist, each time you choose differently, you build resilience and move closer to a life of emotional freedom and authentic connection. Ultimately, stepping out of the cycle of avoidance and pursuit is an act of profound self-love. It honors your need for healing and growth above the allure of familiarity. It allows you to open space for relationships that nourish your soul rather than deplete it. When you break the trap of old patterns, you step into a new story, one where you are the author and your choices reflect the deep respect and care you have for yourself. This is the true liberation that transforms not only your relationships but your entire life. Responding with strength rather than weakness when faced with the return of someone who once avoided you is one of the most profound acts of self-empowerment you can undertake. Strength in this context does not mean harshness, anger, or vindictiveness. It means holding firm to your truth with calm clarity and unwavering respect for yourself. It is about reclaiming control over your emotional landscape without falling into the trap of reactive behavior that diminishes your dignity or peace. When an avoidant person comes back into your life, it can awaken a flood of emotions, confusion, hope, fear, and sometimes even desperation. It's natural to want answers or explanations, to seek reassurance that this time things will be different, but reacting from a place of emotional vulnerability or weakness often leads to repeating the cycle of pain and disappointment. Instead, responding with strength means pausing, centering yourself, and choosing your actions deliberately rather than impulsively. Strength is rooted in self-awareness. It comes from knowing your worth and understanding that your peace is more important than temporary validation. When you respond with strength, you are not reacting to their presence or absence, but acting from a place of inner calm and confidence. This steadiness creates a powerful contrast to the chaos that their avoidance once brought, and it sets the tone for how you expect to be treated moving forward. Rejection, when done with intention and respect, is not an act of cruelty, but a powerful declaration of self-respect. It says, "I will not settle for less than what I deserve." It is the conscious choice to protect your heart and preserve your dignity. This form of rejection is a boundary made visible, a line drawn clearly and respectfully, not in anger but in love for yourself. It is this kind of strength that leaves a lasting impression, not just on the other person, but on you. When you reject someone who returns only after avoiding connection, you reclaim your agency. You shift from being a passive recipient of their choices to an active decision-maker in your own life. This shift is transformative because it restores the balance of power. Instead of being pulled into their orbit of uncertainty, you create space where your peace and well-being come first. This act of conscious rejection becomes a form of liberation, freeing you from the emotional dependency that once held you captive. Importantly, responding with strength does not mean closing your heart entirely. It means holding it with wisdom, choosing where to place your energy, and refusing to allow past pain to dictate your future. You can be compassionate without compromising your boundaries, firm without being cold. Strength is about mastering your emotions rather than being mastered by them. It is about communicating your truth with grace, standing firm without the need to prove yourself, and walking away when that truth is not honored. This balanced response also transforms your self-perception. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of someone else's avoidance, you begin to see yourself as a survivor, a warrior of your own emotional landscape. You cultivate resilience that is quiet yet unshakable. This resilience is magnetic. It draws people who respect your integrity and repels those who would diminish it. Your strength becomes a beacon, signaling that you are no longer available to be treated as an option or a fallback. Rejection in this sense is not about making someone feel bad. It is about making yourself feel whole. It is a reclamation of your emotional sovereignty. When you reject the avoidance return consciously and respectfully, you are rewriting your story, one where your peace and dignity are non-negotiable. You are choosing freedom over fear, love over longing, and clarity over confusion. In the grand design of your life, this response is a sacred act. It aligns you with higher principles of self-love, respect, and purposeful living. It reminds you that you do not need anyone's approval to know your worth, and that sometimes the greatest love you can show yourself is the courage to say no. This strength not only protects you, but also paves the way for healthier, more authentic relationships built on mutual respect and genuine connection. Choosing strength over weakness in this moment is more than just a decision. It is a declaration. It tells the world, and more importantly yourself, that your peace is paramount and that you will no longer tolerate anything less than what nourishes your soul. This is the transformative power of responding with strength, a power that not only changes your interactions, but transforms your very life. Focusing on your healing and growth after experiencing avoidance or emotional distance from someone is a sacred commitment to yourself, a commitment that honors your journey toward wholeness and liberation. It is easy to get caught up in the cycle of trying to fix the relationship, to seek validation from the person who avoided connection, or to dwell on what went wrong. But true transformation begins when you shift your focus inward, dedicating your time, energy, and love to nurturing your own soul rather than chasing someone else's approval. Healing is not a linear path, nor is it a quick fix. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to face your wounds honestly without judgment. The pain caused by avoidance often leaves scars of doubt, fear, and insecurity. These wounds can cloud your perception of yourself and your relationships, making it difficult to trust or open your heart again. Yet healing invites you to look deeply at these scars, to understand their origins, and to gently tend to them with kindness and care. Growth naturally follows healing, because when you tend to your emotional wounds, you create fertile ground for new strengths to emerge. You begin to reclaim parts of yourself that may have been lost or diminished through the experience of being avoided. This might mean rediscovering your passions, setting new goals, or cultivating relationships that reflect the respect and love you deserve. Growth is a deliberate act of choosing to move forward, not in denial of your past, but with the wisdom it has gifted you. Prioritizing healing and growth means letting go of the illusion that your happiness depends on someone who once chose distance. This is a radical act of self-love because it recognizes that your worth and joy are independent of external circumstances or other people's choices. When you make your healing a priority, you reclaim your emotional sovereignty. You stop waiting for them to return or change and start creating a life filled with meaning and fulfillment on your own terms. This focus on your own growth also rewires your relationship with attachment and expectations. Instead of clinging to what might have been or what you hope will be, you develop a sense of peace with what is. You learn to embrace uncertainty without fear, knowing that your foundation is built on your own resilience and self-awareness rather than someone else's presence. This shift liberates you from the cycle of longing and disappointment and opens space for genuine connection rooted in mutual respect and authenticity. In this process, you become your own healer and guide. You learn to listen deeply to your inner voice, to trust your intuition, and to honor your needs. You might explore practices that nourish your mind, body, and spirit. Meditation, journaling, therapy, creative expression, or time spent in nature. These practices ground you in the present moment and help you reconnect with the truth of who you are beyond the pain of avoidance. The commitment to healing and growth also strengthens your boundaries. As you become more attuned to your worth, you naturally begin to protect yourself from toxic or harmful dynamics. You no longer tolerate behavior that undermines your peace or self-respect. This clarity empowers you to choose relationships that support your well-being and reflect your highest values. Ultimately, this focus is transformative because it reclaims your narrative. It changes the story from one of loss and rejection to one of empowerment and renewal. You are no longer defined by what was denied to you, but by the strength and beauty that arise from your own healing journey. This transformation shines as a beacon of hope, not only for yourself, but for others who witness your courage and growth. When you prioritize healing and growth, you create a life that is rich with purpose and joy. You become a living testament to the power of self-love and resilience. This is the truest form of revenge, not to make someone regret losing you through bitterness or anger, but to make them realize what they missed as they watch you flourish independently, whole and radiant. Your healing is your victory, and your growth is your freedom. True regret does not come from confrontation or bitterness. It arises quietly and powerfully when someone witnesses the unwavering confidence and joy of the person they once took for granted. When an avoidant person returns after distancing themselves, the greatest and most lasting regret they can feel is not from arguments or recriminations, but from seeing you live fully, richly, and unapologetically apart from them. This kind of regret is profound because it reveals the truth that what they lost was not just a person but a vibrant life force they can no longer touch. Living fully means embracing your authentic self with courage and passion. It means engaging deeply with your dreams, your passions, and your relationships in ways that nurture your soul, rather than drain it. When you choose this path, you shift the focus from what was lost or broken to what is possible and abundant. Your energy no longer orbits around the uncertainty of their return or the hope of their change. Instead, it radiates from within, drawing in people and experiences that align with your true worth. This fullness of life creates a magnetic presence that cannot be ignored. The avoidant person may come back expecting to slip seamlessly into your world, but instead, they find a person who has grown beyond the need for their validation or presence. They see your strength, your peace, and your happiness, and these qualities stand as a silent testament to the life they chose to walk away from. This is the kind of regret that is quiet but powerful, because it is rooted not in words but in the reality of your transformation. When you live fully, you embody a divine principle that your worth and happiness are self-generated and not dependent on others. This truth shines like a light that no avoidance can dim. You become a living example of resilience and self-love, demonstrating that true fulfillment comes from within. Watching this, the avoidant person may come to understand what they missed, not through confrontation, but through the undeniable fact of your radiant life. Moreover, living fully means embracing freedom. Freedom from the chains of past hurts, from the cycles of chasing and withdrawal, and from the need to explain or justify yourself. This freedom allows you to engage with the world authentically, without fear or hesitation. It means setting new goals, cultivating meaningful relationships, and exploring new horizons with an open heart. In this space, regret cannot thrive because your joy and purpose create a sanctuary that no absence can breach. This kind of regret also teaches a profound lesson about timing and choice. The avoidant person's return may come too late because you have already moved beyond the pain and confusion they once caused. Your life has expanded, and your vision has clarified. You no longer see yourself through the lens of what was lost, but through the lens of what you have gained: strength, wisdom, and a renewed sense of self. This shift in perspective is what makes their regret so poignant and irreversible. Importantly, making them regret losing you is not about manipulation or revenge. It is about living your truth so fully and unapologetically that your life itself becomes the answer to every doubt they once sowed. It is a demonstration that your happiness is not a prize to be won by their return, but a gift you give yourself, no matter what happens with them. This authentic living is the highest form of empowerment and the most beautiful kind of victory. When you choose this path, you also inspire others. Your journey of reclaiming your worth and living fully becomes a beacon of hope and courage for those who struggle with similar pain. Your example shows that healing is possible and that happiness is a choice, not contingent on anyone else's actions, but firmly rooted in your own power. In the end, the regret of the avoidant person is a reflection of their own missed opportunity, but your life remains untouched by it except to shine brighter. Your transformation is your triumph, and by living fully, you not only make them regret losing you, but more importantly, you celebrate the undeniable truth that your joy and peace are yours to claim. Always, thank you for your time and openness. May your journey forward be filled with strength and peace. Goodbye for now, and remember, your worth is limitless and unshakable. In this moment, when someone who once avoided you returns, you stand at a powerful crossroads. You have the sacred opportunity to choose yourself, to honor your worth, uphold your boundaries, and break free from the cycles that no longer serve you. Responding with strength and clarity, focusing on your healing and growth, and living fully not only protects your peace, but transforms your entire life. This is your declaration that you will no longer settle for less than you deserve, and in doing so, you illuminate a path of self-respect, freedom, and authentic joy. The true power lies not in their regret, but in your unshakable confidence and radiant life. which no avoidance can diminish. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. May you walk forward with courage and grace, embracing the limitless worth that is always within you. Goodbye for now, and never forget, you are enough, you are whole, and your peace is your greatest gift.